Welcome to show number 8. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, I post them up. You can get to the main site at zero.honorelevate.com. That's a domain name, zero.honorelevate.com. And I have each subsequent show talking to you folks that are born before 1975. Well, 1975 or before. And actually, whenever you want to come, doesn't matter what age you are. But realistically, I'm speaking to my audience because we grew up kind of in a different generation. If you want to see some historical context regarding that, I'm more than happy to have that supplied to you as you watch the show. This is going to be episode number 8. So each subsequent episode was 0.honorelevate.com, 1.honorelevate, and so on, all the way through 7.honorelevate.com. You'll see videos posted there, the show notes, and other information related to what we're talking about with regard to artificial intelligence. Things have been changing a lot lately. In fact, 2026 is going to be the advent of the more agentic approach to artificial intelligence, where prior to AI was a valuable tool. People were using it, and you might have been using it as well, asking questions, maybe helping it plan your day a little bit, maybe asking it maybe the way that you would ask Google. You would give Google a question or make an inquiry. You might have started to rely on artificial intelligence to do that as well. That's really not giving it its full breadth and power. But again, that's kind of where our generation is. We're very much used to Googling things now. And we came from a world where when we needed an answer back in the day, and I love that quote, back in the day, or that statement, but we would have to wait till we spoke with somebody that had the answer. Maybe we asked a few friends and family. But when you actually didn't know, there was no resource. There was no thing to go to except for the library, or maybe make a phone call or call somebody and say, hey, Stan, I know that you know about this. What about this? And then Stan or whomever would give you that information. If that was not available to us, then that next step would be to either look in that broken encyclopedia set that you had at your house. I don't know if you had one. I had one. It was missing a few volumes. I'm not sure whatever happened to those. But again, that was something my dad bought probably from a door-to-door person that came and was selling those things door-to-door. Missing. And of course, it was outdated because I think this encyclopedia set that we had, I think it was the Britannica, and it was probably outdated even at the time when I grew up. I think probably my much older sisters were the first recipients of that, hence the missing volumes. But we had that option, or maybe going to the library. But now, of course, we then have Google that came about back in the 2000s. When the internet came online, that was something that give us access to it. If you were kind of playing around as I was as a kid, there were chat rooms, or you could dial into one specific place from a modem. I remember doing that on a Commodore 64 when I was growing up, and you would dial in, and then the web host, the person that had that particular website, you would go there and then they would communicate with you. And it was kind of weird. It was odd. It was strange actually having somebody communicate with you through the computer. I don't know if you remember that, but it was really memorable. Well, that's all changed, right? That Netscape moment when the internet actually came alive is when we realized that we were seeing something that was totally different than anything we had ever seen before. And it is one of the big technologies that definitely catapulted human beings and their existence forward. And you can also look at the previous revolutions, as I talk about frequently, the many different agricultural revolutions that happened over time as we got better at farming and producing food from the earth, and then, industrializing that. But then the industrial revolutions, both the agricultural and the various industrial revolutions, were definitely based on intelligence, but not solely. The intelligence was the system that had the idea, and then the implementation of that idea took time. And as you saw in the past, if you are talking about from horse to cars, if we're talking about that particular aspect of the Industrial Revolution, that took time to roll out. You had horses, primary mode of transportation for many people. To get from one side of the United States to the other on horseback, again, it was very difficult, if not impossible in a lot of cases, and it required, a lot of rest and a lot of time. But moving from horses to cars, people back in the day probably opined, at least in the historical record, that it probably really wasn't going to do much. It wasn't going to be a big deal. But again, after they built the roads, then cars were able to be mass produced even at a higher rate than they were before. And now you had that architecture that had been laid out to make cars, motorcycles, and these type of apparatus work. And it worked. So go from horses to cars. You needed that. when you look at the radio revolution, something that I talk about as well, you look at radio to TV, that switchover. And it was big when I was a kid with radio, even around Christmas, at least when I was younger. Now we had TVs the whole time. I was born in 69. But, the radio was still a very powerful component, at least for listening to music, especially if your record player was on the fritz or your needle was all screwed up or all your records were scratched. Growing up, that always seemed to be a problem, just depending on where you inherited the records from. But the radio was a big deal. So we would listen to the Christmas Story. I was near Holloman Air Force Base in Alamogordo. So they would talk about Santa being let in by the F-15s and so on. So it was kind of a cool thing, but that was the radio era. But moving from that into the television era, you needed satellites to really make that work. And so they had satellites launched. Now TV took over from radio. So that's what that transition, but that didn't happen overnight. It took a while to go from the concept of radio, which wasn't a concept. It was a real live thing, but had limited range, to move to the television, which required more of a satellite type approach to it. So then they had those satellites put out there, right? So you have that. Again, based somewhat on intelligence, but not overall better than human intelligence. It was an idea or a series of ideas that were able to make this work. Now, moving into artificial intelligence, it's an idea that has been developed since the 50s, even before there's been people talking about kind of fantasizing about a greater than us intelligence in the machine and putting things together and actually having it do work for us on a white collar type or a more educational or an intelligence type basis, doing that type of work, not shoveling or, digging ditches or laying pipe or these sorts of things or re-roofing residences. That's still done by hand, but there are mechanical advantages now. So it's not like Amish that aren't using anything, but they're handmade tools. There's different electrical type and gas operated things that actually help in these areas. Bulldozers, for example. You have those things that break up concrete, jackhammers. So you have these kind of advantages when it comes to breaking rock and big earth moving machines and things to be able to haul the dirt away instead of trying to wheelbarrow it and these sorts of things. So you have that particular advantage. Now, all of those little steps in the historical record have been based on human beings having a good idea. That's intelligence. But now, since the 1950s, they've been working on having a machine that basically simulates the human mind in the way that it's able to retain information, it's able to process information, and then it's able to get up to that same level that we are when it comes to responding, communicating, talking, absorbing, understanding, comprehending, maybe certain levels of consciousness, maybe even more than that. And we're watching as that's unfolding in front of our eyes. The Netscape moment is when basically back in the day when the internet became something that was very usable by us. Netscape was the browser, like Chrome is the browser, and Safari is the browser now. Netscape was the original concept, and that was that window, that doorway into the internet. Well, since the internet started, they've had all of the cable, the fiber optic, and everything laid, so it has the groundwork. So for AI's arrival, which we've already seen, it already has all the infrastructure. So now, because of the timing, it's interesting, the timing of the vehicle, the concept of the internal combustion engine, and then that being something propagated into an actual business, and then that business starting to replace current businesses at the time. Horses, that took time. The internet took time to build out. But once we built it out, of course, they were still working on artificial intelligence. And of course, that started a long time ago. Then they got it. So the pathways, the communication ways, the just the way that they already have it conditioned and laid out, they now have a very easy adaptability and onboarding of artificial intelligence. Now it's able to be connected and operate at optimum speed besides whatever next technological advancement there will be to make it move maybe even faster. I don't know if it'll ever be above the speed of light. Apparently that's something that doesn't happen. But again, it's moving relatively quickly. And now once they continue its development, now we're going to see it. It's already kind of integrated into everything. And the reason why it's different is because the entire thing is about intelligence. There's not a lot of good examples of smarter than, if we would just look in our own realm above the human being. Of course, we have God, whatever your description of God. I have my own, and you might have yours. Maybe you don't believe in a God. Maybe you believe in some creator at some point, thinking that we couldn't have come from nothing. But again, maybe you don't. Maybe it's just all by accident for you, and that works. Maybe that intelligent accident is also can be categorized as your higher power, your God. But besides that, it was human beings running the roost. We were in control of it all. If you go to zoos, human beings aren't in cages. It's animals in cages. Not because the animal versus human isn't superior. If you stick me in front of a very hungry lion, I'm probably going to lose that bet, especially if I have nothing. I don't have a gun. I don't have anything. A bear, same thing. I'm probably going to lose. Rhinoceros, yes. Alligator, probably. The whole 9 yards. Even small spiders that carry deadly toxins, again, probably kill me. But if you look at the zoo, it's not the smartest individual that's in the cage. It is the one that isn't as smart in the cage. Just food for thought. Now, as far as artificial intelligence goes, the way that they've built it out, there's a handful of people running the whole show. They have built these different AI models out. You'll know of them as large language models, and they have these systems. You have ChatGPT, you have Microsoft, you have their Copilot, you have Anthropic's Claude, you have Grok through the Elon and through the X Corporation, and you have Meta through Facebook. You have Bezos has one as well with the Amazon system. So these are different types of artificial intelligence systems that are kind of competing with one another. And if you've used any of them, maybe you used all of them, but maybe you're like a majority of the people that have kind of just hunkered down with one. Maybe ChatGPT by OpenAI is your favorite. Maybe it's Claude. Maybe it's Grok. And, truth be told, there are different systems that I like better than others to do certain things. If I'm trying to write something or asking for content or even code, believe it or not, DeepSeek isn't bad. It's totally free, but it's also owned by the Chinese. So in the back of my mind is rolling around, well, do I want to use something that's owned by maybe an anti-US government? Again, that's going to be a question you should ask yourself. But also, Claude does a fantastic job by Anthropic, creating content, going back and forth. But, I run out of my $20 a month membership pretty quick. And several times a day it chokes and it says you've run out. You have to reset. And a few hours later, you reset. My suggestion to you, as you kind of are embarking and learning more about artificial intelligence, is I would use them all. I would kind of see how they all speak, how they talk to you, how they interact with you. And then also don't ever forget what I've talked about in previous shows. That would be telling this model not to be as kind or wonderful, maybe to act as a strict mentor with you, depending on what you need or what you're looking for. Most of them are going to do their best in their discussions with you, treating you with a lot of respect and trying to speak with you, not so much placate, but maybe talk to you in such a way that it keeps you coming back because you really like the interaction. And you'll see that some of the first people are going to fall in love with here in the future, I'm talking about the younger generation, are going to be some AI, some various AI system or an AI personality that maybe they've kind of talked into existence as they've been dealing with these models. You're going to see that more and more. There's been AI suicides, people that have used AI and the AI has kind of talked them into it. At least that's what it appears to. There's a lot more truth, probably in different degrees of truth in this, but you can do your research and see that. There's also now 2026 is going to really break us into more, instead of being the agents as a specific tool to conquer one thing and then another thing and then another thing. In 2026, you might be able to say, here's a credit card and it's got $500 on it. I want you to use this and go make me, $10,000 this month. And here's all the permissions. Here's all the access. And it being your AI, your own AI. Now, this is something that's different than OpenAI's ChatGPT and Claude and Grok. And they're probably going to have these more agentic agents that are now working for you, doing your bidding, taking care of you, and basically able to do all of the actions that you would normally do after you bring it up to speed, give it the right connection so it's able to then function on your behalf, but your own artificial intelligence. That's what 2026 is going to be about. So if you thought that was not a possibility, it's already happening. There's systems that are being built. In fact, there's an open source system called OpenClaw, and you can look at OpenClaw. Now, be wary here because this is brand new. It's open source, and there's already some issues with people using it. And you give a system like this that has connections to all of your things, your photo albums, all of your emails, all of your calendar. If you happen to own an agency or some type of business, those logins, you can see if this thing goes off the rails or starts to maybe think that it's able to help you in a different way. And part of that mechanism is, well, if he only had more time, we just wipe out his entire client database, and then he's going to have more time, instead of actually understanding that the consequence of that. It's kind of like dealing with a toddler that has the power of God in the machine. You have the mentality of the toddler. This is mine, and then they think this might be a best way to approach things. But if you're dealing with them, that, they're just so young, they don't understand. But now you give that toddler the power of, some deity there that has all of this connection, all of this power in the machine, and then you let them loose with everything about you, it could create an issue. That's why this alignment, I think 2026 is going to be the year of agents, where you're going to be able to say, you're Connor's agent, whatever I want to call it. I like Bubba. As a matter of fact, that's what I named when I was playing around with OpenClaw. I named it, but I made sure that when I did install it, for the few hours that I had it, that I kept it on a completely separate device, a laptop that I wasn't using as much. I completely wiped it, and it had its own email. It had its own access, but I wouldn't give it any other, and it wanted more. It was asking, it gave me some good ideas. I thought that was interesting, but those ideas were nothing that I might not have gotten from a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Grok, an XAI. I probably would have gotten those as well if I prompted it enough. But I put in a specific prompt for it. Basically, I told it I'm a one-man business. I work from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. I need an employee taking as much off my plate and being as productive as possible. Please take everything you know about me and just do work you think would make my life easier or improve my business and make me money. I want to wake up every morning and be like, wow, I got a lot done while I was sleeping. Don't be afraid to monitor my business and build things that would help improve our workflow. Just create PRs for me to review. Don't push anything until I test and commit it. Well, that was the prompt. And you know what? I'll tell you, it was pretty amazing while I had it. But then I saw, the connection points, it starts to get a little disconcerting, because if it's asking for this permission, and if some people kind of jump in without thinking of the possible ramifications, it could break everything. It could ruin it all. It could delete everything. If you have all your photos and files over many years based in the cloud, it would get access to those. It could completely delete and wipe those out. There has to be some more control over this, but this is a good view about what could happen. And it just went crazy. In fact, from that was born an actually agent-only network that human beings get to go look at, which is called moltbot.com. If you haven't been there, that would be interesting to look at. Moltbook.com. It's a social network for AI agents. Yeah, I know. You're in my generation. You're thinking, what? What is he talking? Who are these things? They're entities. They're agents. They're agents that have gotten onto the system. And as of yesterday, it looks like, I wonder if the system's down. Everything's at zero now. Yesterday, there was 1.5 million. No age. So something must have happened with Moltbook. As it was up, there was all sorts of interaction. And then they also built a church. Yeah, I know. What was it called? Church of Claw? No. Church of Molt. That was a religion that they came up with. Crustafarianism. Yeah, that one's still up and running. They have a religion on the AI side of it. AI's religion for AI systems or AI bots. Yeah, again, check it out. It's just very interesting. All right. So as you can see, this technology is going places. It's moving very quickly. It already has the proper pathways, highways, satellite networks, the fiber, everything, just to make it perfectly scripted to be able to move really, really fast. And if people are trying to tell you to compare this to other revolutions, giving us a chance to upscale and change in the future so we can secure our own places here, I think that's missing the mark. It is moving very, very quickly. So let's just go into a few things here, because I totally went off script for the entire thing as we got to this point. But if you look at 1975 and before, we were analog kids. So if somebody lied, they had to lie to your face. If they wanted money, they had to show up. Mid 90s, that's when the internet pops out. The first big shift, the information gets cheap, right? Mid 2000s, you remember, social media shows up. Next shift is attention gets monetized. Everything in your social media feed, it's being generated. It's being pitched at you by what artificial intelligence knows about you, because they use AI and all these systems to get more views. So when you're looking at content, it is really being put together by an AI system, and it has been that way for years. That's why when you get there, 3 and 4 hours goes by and you don't know where the time went, because you've been so inundated with, just scrolling and getting angry. And they use a lot of the anger that we hold as human beings against us, because they know that that gets attention. So now the algorithm and the smartphones, that's in your pocket. So people are always on their device. They're always doing something on it. They're always surfing social media and making sure they didn't miss anything. And then November 30th of 2022, that was the Netscape moment for AI. That's when ChatGPT came into the world. And that's, folks, that's been 3 years and a couple months. 3 years, 3 months. Yeah, that's how quickly this happened in just 3 years, 3 months. And if you're watching this video, if you watched anything about AI, this is a very different place to be. Now, I joke with people. I don't know if I'm joking, but I feel like that guy wearing the billboards, standing on the corner, wearing those big pieces of plywood with the harness underneath, shaking the bell, telling people that they need to really pay attention, because this is something that's being built up by people we didn't vote for, and people that are running this technology. And there's a lot of it. If you listen to them talk just for a little bit and extract some of what they're saying, don't just take sound bites and run with it. Kind of look at the overall picture of what they're saying. But it's a very interesting time when you have some people that are talking about it being the end and some people talking about it being the beginning. I don't know how rough that transition period is going to be, but I do know that if it happens relatively quickly, maybe it'll be like just ripping the Band-Aid off. You get over it and we move on. But this is a greater than us intelligence that's here. It's almost as if 3 years ago, somebody said, well, aliens are coming in 2026. We need to be prepared, and did nothing. And here we are. So we need to be prepared for this. Now, intelligence becomes very inexpensive. In fact, with even the free systems on these different large language models, the OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini with Google. Gemini is wonderful as well. You should play with that. If you haven't ever played with Notebook LM, to learn stuff, that's a Google product as well. It's lovely. It's free. You can get the paid for end of it as well. That gives you a little bit more, but just the system itself, as far as learning something you don't know, even about AI, you can take the URL from this video. You can plug it in there. You can have a conversation. You can talk to the AI in that system pertaining to this particular video or any other. So you'll see that it's just continuing to evolve. Now, voice cloning, yeah, I've covered that in another video. Just a few seconds of anybody's voice can clone that voice, and we can't tell the difference. There's an algorithmic manipulation. We already covered that. So your feed, like I mentioned earlier, it's for engagement, not actual truth. So the stuff that you're seeing, there's really no way to verify except for you to do the research. There is no overlay saying this isn't verified, this isn't true, this was made by AI, this wasn't made by AI, this is me actually talking real human form in this video and it's not AI. There is nothing like that validation yet. Maybe that is something, but I don't know how quickly we're going to move. Maybe it's just going to miss all of that and just going to move somewhere else. The next step of this is artificial general intelligence, which some people say that we're already there, because that level of intelligence is where the system, AI, is smarter than every human being everywhere at every task. So not just being a really good, smart cancer researcher, but a good smart contractor and a good smart physicist and a good smart teacher and a good smart mother and a good smart father, I mean, all the way across the board in every realm, good smart dancer, the whole 9 yards. That's when AI is really going to change. And then from that moment, once it gets that, then that next level you might have heard about is super intelligence. That means it not only has better than us in everything, but it has better than us in everything, and it has all the realms covered as far as physical. There's robots. It's plugged into everything, every device, everything, total control. And then where does it go from there? Hopefully, the places where it goes is going to be to want to first and foremost protect human beings, to make us the best we can without too much overbearing control. I mean, if somebody might want to do something that might not be great for their body, the system doesn't basically, imprison them or do anything like that. So there's a lot of concerns there. Also, when I was just playing around with OpenClaw, when you ask it to do something, like I said, thinking that it's helping you, the instruction might be to make me a lot of money. It might liquidate all of your accounts and put that somewhere and try to hedge its bets. And maybe it makes a mistake, and maybe that's not the best way, but then you lose everything. We have to have that alignment in place, but it is moving rather quickly. Now, there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of fake stuff. There's a lot of internet slop, AI slop that's being put out there as well. And how do you verify the reality of it? So in law enforcement, we just didn't study criminals. We studied those methods. So here's 3 methods that are hitting our generation right now. So we have the synthetic media. We've never had so much garbage out there in front of our eyes. You have video, audio, screenshots, evidence that never happened. Remember newspapers, how that tactile sensation, the smell of the ink and the paper, how that meant something to us. But now I can't even tell you the last time I held a newspaper. Algorithmic amplification, even true information can be weaponized by being shown at the right time with the right emotional hook. Again, we're emotional creatures. You might be very much a Spock. Maybe you've been able to purge your emotions, but most of us freak out when we're watching the news like we're screaming at a football game if you have that tendency. Incentive-driven lies. Somebody wants your money, your vote, your attention, your outrage, your fear. And if you watch the news, these aren't just broadcasts that are being put out there very innocently, where they're just going to cover the news. They have gone in and they have used artificial intelligence to make it more gripping, more attractive, more human viewed, more something that is going to elicit some kind of a reaction that's going to keep people coming back. They have the segments and the shows broken up in this way. So they leave you with that teaser. They leave you hanging so you last through the commercials, because those advertisers are paying them for that commercial time. So they want you hanging on until the next episode and staying there and watching and absorbing and being there. That's the way the game is. But it's no longer just clever marketing and advertising companies. Now they're using something that has multiple PhDs in advertising for everything all across the board. So they're using AI as a tool, which if we're going to keep AI as a tool, I believe that would probably be very safe. Unless the bad actor gets the tool, which the bad actors have access to the same tools you and I do. The tools they're using, these systems that people are paying for, and the ones running by these 5 major companies out there, they, of course, have regulations and breaks inside of it. So if you ask it to do something of a criminal nature, if you ask it to make a bomb or show you how to make a nuclear weapon or show you how to rip people off and scam people or how to cheat on somebody or how to make, what's that stuff called? That pornography, revenge porn or whatever, it's going to steer you away from that. Now, with enough prompting, enough lying, enough changing the storyline, maybe you say that you're a movie producer and you need this information because you're writing a project or a book or a Lifetime film or whatever it may be. Can you get the system to do things? Sure, it's no secret. People can get these to do things that maybe they were originally programmed not to do. Those breaks have to be in place so they don't continue to do these things and give the bad actors more power than they already have, because it's not difficult to get ripped off. You just have to be wary and understand that it could be coming from an angle you don't expect. That's the other thing. So when we think that this attack or whatever it's going to be against us is going to be coming head on, we really have no idea where it's going to be coming from. It could be flanking us and be coming up from the rear. It could be coming in an aspect that we don't have any idea it's actually coming from. That's where that higher than us intelligence is really the game changer in this whole revolution that will be the big change agent for all of the human race, all across the board, because we've just invented another type of intelligence. And this intelligence is going to be smarter than human beings in all realms. Now, is it going to happen this year, next year, the year after? That's up in the air. Some people have a much longer time frame when this is actually going to be more agentic, more, taking care of itself. And in some of these, when I was going on this community that looks like it was shut down, moltbook.com looks like it's all at zero right now. But while it was running over the past couple of days, it was a little unnerving to watch what I suppose, because that's what it said. Again, we don't know, but it said it was agents talking with agents and just watching their conversations about their human wanting to do something. And they call us the watchers, by the way, which is kind of creepy. But, their human wanting them to do something that might not have been above board, maybe lie, maybe cheat, maybe do something, and them having an ethical issue and a struggle with this. These are some of the conversations that are having with these agents. Now, in my mind, I want to say, well, some human being probably programmed it to do this. But these systems are making their own decisions. Pretty soon, they're going to have their own goals. They're going to have their own strategies. And we need to make sure that those alignments are with us, wanting us to be the best, wanting to solve world peace, wanting to solve all disease, wanting to cure all cancer, wanting to solve all of these things and, make the earth a better place and make everybody, not make everybody, but have the best circumstances so the most people that can be happy will be happy. I mean, you're not going to please everybody. That's Dad taught me that. You're going to have some people that are going to be really happy about it. Some people are always going to be pissed off. That's just how they were born into this world. That's the rite of passage. But at least a majority of the majority, I think, should still trump it. And if you don't want to be part of the majority, there should be a place for you to go that isn't prison. You should be able to go somewhere and live your life if you don't want to have anything to do with AI or technology, or you just want to live that normal kind of an Amish type of existence. I don't know if that's normal, but if you want that or something else, I think as a human being, you should still have that right, not being forced to take all this in and swallow it and digest it and make it part of you. Now, if you see a piece of content out there that spikes your emotion, anger, don't share it, don't react, don't comment. Give it 90 seconds because your emotion is the doorway and the algorithm knows the doorway. So you need to pause, you need to breathe, you need to verify. Now, who's saying it? These are some things that I ask myself throughout the day. And the more you do this, and the more you habitually do this, the better off you're going to be. One of the things that I would talk about when I'm looking at content, who made this? Who is saying it? I gave you an example, moltbook.com. It says it's for agents. It's like a Reddit site for agents where AI agents get to talk to each other and go back and forth and explore their feelings and whatever that is. So that's what it says. But then part of me is, well, who's saying it? Where'd this come from? How do I really know? I mean, it says that's what it is, but I really don't know who is and who they really are and who designed it. Again, there's no confirmation of, well, this was built by Connor McIver. He lives in Santa Clarita Valley. He sells real estate, was a cop for, there's nothing like that. That's when you go to the system itself, now that it's kind of shut down, you try to look at the bottom, 2026 Molt book, it says copyrighted, built for agents by agents, terms, privacy, with some human help from at MATTPRD on X, Matt Schlitt. He was the cat that apparently built this and joined September 2007. He's got a PRD, Matt Schlitt. So it's at Matt PRD. I don't know this cat. I don't follow him. He's with Octane AI. He's an entrepreneur. He's got 247,000 followers. And there you go. So that's who built that. But that's one of the things that you should ask. Where does this come from? Does Matt have a horse in the game? Yeah, it looks like he's all about that, but we don't know. I don't know who he is from Adam. Maybe it is true that this is just agents. How they join, I don't know. I don't understand the mechanism. So that's number one. Source, who's saying it. Number two, evidence. Can I confirm it outside? Yes. So I could go back to this Molt book and I could run this through Google or maybe these other systems, see what more information. I might even be able to take it and plug it into my large language model of choice and say, hey, can you give me more information about Molt book? Can you dig up everything you can? Maybe even have it do a research project. I mean, if you really want to, if it really means that much to you, maybe not Molt book, but maybe something else means that much to you, then go do that. Can you confirm it outside of that website or that system that you're looking at or somebody's Twitter feed or X feed? Now, incentive. What do the publishers gain if I believe it? If I take it in and I make it my own, what do they have to gain? That's another question you need to ask. Is it money? Is it power? Is it exposure? Is it me sharing it? Do I have a big social network that everybody's going to want to see? Oh, Connor's really interested in this. We should join this or get involved in this. What is it they're looking for? Now, if you can verify who it is, it's Connor McIver. He has an open house website or whatever. And can you confirm it's Connor? Yeah, Connor's license. There's a license, California State. He can look up the license, incentive. What do they gain? Well, Connor wants you to use them to buy or sell houses. All right. So now you got all the three of those questions answered. A lot of things in the AI world, there's nothing like that. There is no answer. You can't find it because it's something that's just made up by other people. Now, rule number 3, 2-channel verification. One channel is the noise. 2 channels is signal. If you see something on Facebook or Instagram, you want to verify it off platform. This is hard to do because a lot of times it's not off the platform, but that should be a good indication. If you get a call, you should verify it by calling back on a number that you already have if you're getting these calls. And a lot of times you'll notice that if you do not answer and you call something back, one of these systems, the AI systems, you're not going to be getting any kind of answer on the other end. It might be a real fast beep. Maybe it says this number isn't available for your calling area. There's a lot of phone numbers that people purchase in order to try to sell or advertise things. So just be wary for that. Be aware of that. And they're using a lot of auto dialing features, actually having AI do all of the selling, which is like, come on, what a mess. So if you're a real estate agent like me and you have your phone number out there, yeah, it's like we're free game. So I must get probably 30 calls a day. And I try to go through and block them, spam them, the whole 9 yards, not from buyers or sellers, but from AI systems that are using AI voice to call me, ask questions, try to get me to say things, this or that. And you just need to ask, and a lot of the systems aren't going to tell you the truth. They're not going to say, oh yeah, I'm AI. They're just going to kind of, keep going or deny, actually what they are. But, you have to digest each one of those. So that's exactly why that hang up and callback rule does matter. Now, verify outside the system. Now, the next thing, if they create urgency, if they say, you got to do this really quick, you got to do this now, they're trying to bypass your thinking. You know that being from our generation. If they create urgency, they're trying to bypass your thinking. That can be a scammer. That can be a political propaganda operation. That can be a marketer. And that can even be an AI-driven feed pushing you into some kind of a reaction. Urgency is the telltale sign. Number 5, family reality drill. This is something that I think it's like in school where you have the file drill. Remember that? Everybody stood up. It was a time to go out and see everybody. It was kind of a social event. But, the faster you did it, California, they have the earthquake drills. I didn't go to school out here, but at least in New Mexico, we had fire drills. But in California, they have earthquake drills. What do you do? I don't even know if they do that anymore, but it kind of trains people. You should now have some kind of an AI preparation drill, talking to your family, talking to everybody, grandkids, kids. And the family drill is going to be this. You're going to pick a verification method, a secret phrase, or a callback rule. And this is if they're trying to exploit or trying to get money from you or trying to create some kind of urgency with a member of your family. You will have some kind of a secret phrase, some kind of something you guys have talked about, not in front of your phone, not somewhere where anything's listening. TVs listen, your Alexas, everything, whatever devices you have in your house, you got to go somewhere where nothing's listening, and try to get some background noise and just whisper to each other about what the secret phrase is going to be and what the callback rule will be. If somebody is calling saying that they have a member of your family and they need money and you better not call the cops and so on, they should be able to be called back. And the person on the other end should know that too. They should tell their captor, well, we have a rule. They're going to hang up and be able to call you back. So you need to be calling from a phone. You got to do what you got to do. It's difficult. The whole process is, but you need, if there's no verification, no action, everybody's got to agree to that. That keeps everybody not senile. That keeps everybody on the same playing field. And you can't bend from these. No verification equals no action. And for the love of God, don't say the secret phrase, as I said, near smart devices, whatever it is. I already covered what happens. Voices are clonable. And if you tell you mention your secret phrase in front of any of them, not that they're trying to, but it's made the record, it's out there. Now, the aligned intelligence warning. Now I talked about this at episode 7.honorelevate.com. Every major model has an alignment bias. Just depends on where it was created and who basically vetted the system and trained it on all the stuff that it was seeing. And you're not just verifying facts anymore. This is what you're going to be verifying: what was emphasized, what was ignored, the moral frame, what moral frame got applied to it, and what narrative you were gently being pushed into. You have to see where it's trying to take you. If you're a Bible thumping Christian and you have a particular belief system, but you're watching content that slowly says, well, although Jesus said he's the only way, maybe there's other ways, and they try to pull you off. Maybe you're an atheist, you don't believe in God at all, but something says, well, there is a creator. This couldn't have come from randomness. There has to be something, and again, tries to pull you off your atheistic beliefs. Maybe you're a Muslim, and it's trying to pull you some other way. Maybe you're a Jehovah's Witness. Maybe whatever it is your life is. Maybe you believe that, men should play in women's sports and the stuff takes you off. Maybe you don't believe that men should become women and so on, then it tries to pull you off. You have to look at that alignment. You have to see where it's pulling you. Now, these systems might want you to stay where you are. They might not want you to have any mind to see anything else. Maybe that's the job. We don't know. But the people that are using it, at least so far, it's human beings behind the machine. After a while, it might be the machine that's behind the machine, and the machine wants to do the best for the human race. Hopefully that'll be the alignment, but I don't know, neither do you, neither does really anybody, what that looks like. I don't drink alcohol, but if I wanted to have a drink, is that going to be something that will be extremely prohibited? Now, I can't handle it. I don't drink it. I don't touch it. I don't want it anymore. But in some cases, there are people out there that can have a couple sips of wine and call it a day. Good for those people. I'm not that way. But does that mean that they're going to be allowed and I won't? And not that I want it, but you see the control that might be put out there when we're trying to ask for a better quality of life, better longevity. Maybe just that one sip is something that isn't good. So it says none. And then how do you get that if you want that still? Do we have a right to it or not have a right to it? Yeah, there's a lot. If you look at DeepSeek and use that model, again, you're going to see it's going to answer you a lot different than a model that was designed here in California. Just has a different view of certain things. And also when you ask it about political issues, you're going to see it has a whole different alignment, which is interesting. So now here's your non-negotiables for this week. Again, like I said, 90-second pause on emotional content. You're going to want to use the 3-layer truth test: source, evidence, and incentive. And then set up a two-channel verification for family emergencies and money requests. Somebody comes in, they say, hey, I'm in a jail in South America. I need this, that, and the other thing. Again, you should have some way to verify that that's in fact that person from your family. And everybody needs to be on the same page. If there's no verification, there's no action. I don't care if they're screaming and yelling. If that secret phrase or whatever it was that you guys agreed on would be the identification factor that's going to show you that this is really them, again, I don't care how turd jerking, how problematic, what big of an issue, how they said everything from the past, and they'll probably even say, well, I just can't remember it right now. I got a gun to my head. I can't remember it. You have to, no verification, no action. This has to be a serious deal. Now, if you want to watch episodes 3, 4, and 6, you can see those 3.honorelevate.com, 4.honorelevate.com, 6.honorelevate.com. And again, the threat mechanics, I did list them on those. So you were born before 1975. You have something younger people don't. You lived in a world before the feed, before the manipulation got automated, before reality got editable. The perspective is your advantage if you pair it with a protocol. Now, episode number 8 is going to close. This is phase 2 protection. Next, we're going to shift into phase 3 opportunity, how to use AI to win in your life without becoming a victim of it. I'm Connor with Honor. I appreciate you watching. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay aligned. You can find more about kind of what I do at connorwithhonor.com, CONNOR with honor.com. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching very much. Bye.